The Grizzled Skippers
You got it?
Saloon.
Oh, I
Sea
got it
Dog
in
Saloon.
Nebraska.
And you got it in Nebraska, huh?
Heritage Days, yeah.
From a Maine tavern, huh?
Oh no, no, I think it's just that's just a brand of shirt or whatever.
Oh, okay.
They don't have a tavern there yet. At least I don't think.
We're on camera.
I like the big letters. Easier to read.
Right?
Yeah. It would be nice to have better lighting for Instagram.
Remember that when my budget thing comes
Oh,
through?
yeah.
Oh, is that?
No, it's in capital. I put in for it. My cookies should change it so these lights stay on
Yeah,
and then those go off.
those go off, yeah.
But these stay on. That shouldn't be too hard, I think.
There's another wire that goes.
Yeah.
I was thinking, cameras like see the losses.
Find out. Ron Prusher was trying to get a candidate form for the chamber merger.
6 o'clock, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And remind everyone to turn their microphones on and to turn your cell phones off. And we'll have roll call.
Mayor Schomburger.
Here.
Counselor Anderson.
Here.
Counselor Bain.
Here.
Counselor Becker.
Here.
Counselor Dykes.
Here.
Counselor Quinlan.
Here.
Everybody has a copy of the minutes of the regular meeting of September 14th. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, they stand approved as submitted. Everybody also has a copy of the minutes of the joint meeting of Planning Commission and City Council on August 31st. Are there any corrections to that? Hearing none, those stand approved as submitted also. Visitors and delegations, I don't see any. Management, Police and Fire Department radio purchase. Joanne.
In your packet this evening, there was a memo from myself concerning such opportunity for the fire department and the police department to get some the radios purchased at a discounted rate. Last week, Mark and Tad and I both went to a meeting that Motorola held with all of the local public safety entities, the county being the largest one. Because the county's so large, Motorola has offered to a one-time deal and to the county and said that the other entities could tag on board with this to give an additional 15% discount on the radios. You may recall that earlier in the year, Mark had already purchased 4 and 4 of his, was planning on putting another set next year and another set after that. The gamble with that is that we don't know but what those are not going to increase in price at the first of the year. We know the current state bid is good through December 31st. Also, the fire department was actually going to put all of these radios as part of their 2016 capital projects request. And so we're looking now that for a discounted rate, moving it up 3 months and getting a decrease for an overall total savings for both departments would be $29,965. That's a pretty significant savings. The positive is that the fire department, if you may recall, had budgeted for the building improvements through the fire through the fire equipment fund. They had budgeted for the building improvement and for a fire truck, and neither one of those has happened. Both have been postponed. So the money is actually already budgeted there. We're just asking that the city council approve us, instead of purchasing something of that type, that you actually approve this radio purchase. The police department, we would have to supplement for that. But again, it would be a significant savings to go ahead and do a supplemental budget, which I'll have to do one anyway because we got some extra Joslyn Needham funding for the golf course. So I'm going to have to do another supplemental budget anyway, so that's not that big of a deal. Just know that it's going to be out of the general fund into the capital reserve fund. And Mark and Chad, do you have anything that you'd like to add to that?
Not really. If you don't understand why we're having to replace radios. Oh, sorry. We're having to replace radios because it was mandated that public safety go from the 800 service to a 700, 800 service. It had been postponed till 2017, but we're there. You know, time's flying by, and so getting this done will allow us to meet that mandate. Our radios currently they're not making them anymore, so they're at the end of their life, and so no matter what, we were going to have to replace them anyway. This gives us a 40% discount on what we're after, which is pretty significant. We won't see that again. So that's kind of the background on that.
I checked on the state bid out on the web. The state bid expires December 31st of this year. Usually the Motorola state bid is for 2 years. So if it expires in December, there's a good chance it's going up probably 8 to 10%. That's usually what you look for. Right, we don't have that factored in as part of the savings that there'll be, because we have no way of actually knowing what the new state bid for the radio will be. I've dealt with Clint, he's the Motorola rep for Wireless Advanced, and he's helped us all the way through this. He did advise us that our purchase order has to be done by the end of the month and to him to get the other 15%. Basically what we get off is 40% off the radios, because we get 25% for the state bid, and then just for this month only is the extra 15%.
All right, thank you. Thank you all. Is there a motion for this?
I make a motion that we approve the police and fire department radio purchases.
Second.
Second. Further discussion?
I'd just like to thank Joanne for, and staff for recognizing and bringing to council an opportunity where we can save a significant amount of money on the radios. I mean, it's something that we knew we were gonna have to purchase over time. So to me, this is the best. We save money and we get the equipment sooner as well, so it's a good job.
Makes sense. Further discussion? Roll call vote.
Mayor Schomburger?
Yes.
Counselor Anderson?
Yes.
Counselor Bain?
Yes.
Counselor Becker?
Yes.
Counselor Dykes?
Yes.
Counselor Quinlan?
Yes.
Moving down to number B, the presentation of 2016 budget requests by the department directors. And is it who's starting?
Okay, so we'll go around the room and each one of the department heads will present on their particular budgets, and they're just going to do a highlight of any major changes, and any of the stuff that's not changed at all, they just will pass over. So we will start with Mark, and then when we get to Karen, I will actually do Karen and Monty, since they're both gone this evening.
Which page number do you want, top or bottom?
Yeah.
The top, the circled one on the top.
Page 2.
Okay.
I'm just going to go over anything that's over $200 increase. The first one is we've increased office supplies from 2,400 to 2,600. That's pretty much self-explanatory why we had to do that. The next one is legal, and it's going from 20,000 to 24,000. That's $4,000 jump. We've seen more and more cases going through municipal court that requires an attorney. The next one is telephones, and that's going from 4,800 to 5,500. And what we're going to do is try to get the supervisors a cell phone. Right now we're all operating on our own cell phones. And to do this, we will be turning our air cards back in for our laptops, because not everybody has a laptop now. The other one is building maintenance. It's going from 3,000 to 6,000. We do have to put some new evidence lockers in. The last ones were installed in, I believe, 97, when they remodeled the garage into a officer squad room, and they are now coming loose from the wall. And so we have to get those secured, because everybody knows evidence has to be secured. Going to page 3, our animal control building maintenance is going up from $900 to $3,000. We do have to do some maintenance out at the pound, mostly putting in some new doors, because unfortunately the sewer plant gas is really hard on steel doors, and they've rusted the bases away, and those doors are quite expensive. And that's all that
That's
I have.
yours? Okay. Thank you. Moving on, who is next? All right.
Okay, starting on page 10, the cemetery. Not a lot of changes at the cemetery overall. The one to kind of bring to your attention is 1206, which is chemicals. We are raising that by just $300. we are going to try some different things as far as weed control, like out at Watrous Park and Doty Park. The goat heads sometimes catch us a little bit off, and so Dwight wants to try a few different things within our cemetery and also our parks and also our parks. So our chemical budgets have went up in both departments. So that's pretty much it with the cemetery. Everything else is going to stay the same or kind of go lower. If you move to page 15, which is recreation, I do have an increase in field maintenance, 10-451-1421. We had several electrical problems over at Sunset Baseball Field, and one of those problems still hasn't been fixed, and we're not going to be able to fix it until we can get a crane because it's on an 80-foot pole and we don't have a truck to fix it. But it totally needs to be rewired, and all the bulbs need to be replaced. So that is going to be a significant fix, and that's why the large increase to field maintenance is for fixing the electrical problems out over at Sunset Baseball Field. If anybody's been out there to a game, you kind of notice that there's 1 or 2 light bulbs out kind of everywhere. So we're going to try to replace all those when we can too. So the next page where there's a change will be page 20, and that's in competitive baseball. As far as supplies go, especially in May and June, we had a really, really wet months, and when it's wet, Sunset Baseball Pond gets full, and when it gets full, we have probably about a dozen baseballs that go into the pond after every. So we have a significant increase in purchasing baseballs, and baseballs are running about $60 a dozen now. So you're basically losing almost $60 a game whenever we have a baseball game out there. So anyway, we are increasing that by $1,000. We're also doing that because our baseball program has grown so much. We have basically games every day over at the softball fields and also at the Sunset Baseball Park, and just with the added teams, we need additional balls. So that's the reasoning for that. Along with that, along the same line, is we are going to increase the line item for uniforms. We're kind of at a point where we're almost we pretty much include in the cost for to play the sport the cost of the shirt too. So this kind of goes in part with our revenue stream too. So a lot of that money that it shows that we're spending, we're also collecting back in revenue. So that's the reason for that. Page 21, the swimming pool, 1657 chemicals. We're raising that by $500. These last couple years, because of the weather and a lot of rain, we've had to add a lot of chemicals to keep our water balance correct. So I just raised that by $500 just to kind of in case we do go over what we've been doing in the past. And then page 23, youth winter other. That's kind of went up each year. This is the line item where I do a lot of the Parks and Recreation Week events. I take it out of the other category. And this past year, Parks and Rec Week went over very well. So we're hoping that next year we make it even bigger and better. And I think it's a great week. It's a great way to get the community involved in our parks and our recreation and everything. So I am increasing that by about $1,000 to maybe do some different events and some different things. The next one will be parks. Let me get to that. Sorry, too many pages. That'll be page 37. Once again, we talked about it in the cemetery. I do want to increase the amount of money we have for chemicals. That includes all the weed control and also the fertilizers that we put on the grounds. Grounds maintenance. Last year we had requested $30,000. We're dropping it to $20,000 this year. This past year, Dwight and his crews did a lot of projects around the parks, and so a lot of those fell within this. But we don't see a need to do that for next year, so we are dropping it by $10,000 for this year. Another one too. I just want to bring to your attention is the sprinkler budget. As you can see, it was about $4,000 over what we had budgeted. Part of that is because when we finished the skate park, we were hoping to put the sprinkler system in the year we did it, but we didn't get that done. So Dwight does have half of it done this year, and that was why the increase in the sprinkler budget was so much, was because we did put that sprinkler system back in at Pioneer Park. So just wanted you to be aware of that. Electricity and gas, that is this is where we take all of our money from the ball field lighting, and it seems to fluctuate a little bit back and forth. So I am bumping it up to 33,000 for next year. It was that way a few years back, but then we started getting right around the $30,000 mark. But I think I'm safer if I just keep it up there in the $33,000. Travel and training and advertising, no significant change there. Finally, if we go to the golf course, that's on page 42. This is kind of a rolling budget, and I don't mean to try to skirt the issue on it and stuff like that, but with only about 6 months of doing this, I can't give you really, really hard numbers on a lot of different things, but I do know that when I met with Graft Turf Farms, our fertilizer program at this point is very subpar, and that's part of the reason why the grass is hurting as much. Not only is the sprinkler system poor, but our fertilizer program has been a poor one too in the past. So I'm increasing the chemical budget up to $15,000. It was $10,000. Another one is grounds maintenance. There's just several small maintenance issues that need to be taken care of. And then finally, the sprinklers. I put it only at $6,500, but there's a much bigger problem than that as far as the sprinklers go. But a sprinkler at the golf course, pretty much all the parts and everything, it's almost $200 a sprinkler. So kind of gives you an idea. It adds up pretty quick when one goes bad. And there's 219 sprinklers out at the golf course, so it can add up quick. And then the next page, on page 43, golf course merchandise. That's just stuff in there, like golf clubs, hats, shirts. That's stuff that we're trying to sell to promote the golf course. So a lot of that's going to be a revenue stream too, where we're going to be getting back more than what we spend, of course, hopefully. And then I highlighted the bar expense and the restaurant expense because I left it the same because we really don't know exactly how that's going to run at this point. We're putting an ad in the paper to see if there's interest in anybody wanting to lease it, and or if anybody has any ideas that we're not thinking of at this point. Once we get those responses back, then we'd like to sit down and have another meeting and kind of see how we want to move forward with that too. But the kitchen itself, and I could probably talk about this in staff reports, but it's moving along. The hood is up, and so now we're just going to wire it in and put the flooring down, and we should be able to start hopefully moving forward with that. So, but anyway, that's my report for the budget. And is there any questions?
Thank you. I think it's on to Dale.
Okay, thank you. Pretty pleased to announce that most of the budgets, with the exception of the trash and garbage, remain the same as what they were last year's, with a few minor exceptions. Going to page 49, you have the streets budget. You'll notice an increase of $10,000 in travel and training. One of the major reasons is just in 2015 alone, we've experienced a 50% turnover in personnel. This personnel, these new individuals that we have working on the street department need heavy equipment training in order to be proficient in what we're doing. So we're looking at bringing in a trainer for next year to give everybody an opportunity to be trained on the heavy equipment. The next item in streets is going to be the building maintenance. You'll see an increase of $5,800 there. The major purpose for that is the AC in the furnace is starting to become fatigued. It needs, we can either pump a lot of money into fixing what we have or just replace it. So we're looking at probably replacing it with more energy efficient equipment. Then moving on to water on page 53. You'll notice that there's an increase of travel and training of $1,000. Also, we had a turnover of one individual this year due to retirement, and this individual needs some extra training. Then under licensing and permits, you'll see an increase of $5,000 there. A lot of that has to do with new regulations that deal with things, for example, just new laws, more paperwork, more requirements. And then you'll also see an increase of $5,000 in supply maintenance. That is the line item that we use to maintain the well field. You'll see that increase of $5,000 there is because we now have to certify our flow meters. They have to be within 8%, according to state regulations, of actual flow. Trash and garbage is the one budget that looks like it's probably going to have the biggest change to it. It's on page 59. Notably, you will see the building and shop. Now that they are out at their own building and their own shop, they're also going to need to do, they also need supplies out there. We have tools and miscellaneous. There's an increase of $7,300 there simply because they want to purchase equipment this upcoming year in order to service the dumpsters, which includes welders, as well as do light vehicle maintenance and such. Because they do have their own building now, they will have a new line item for electrical and gas, as well as building maintenance. And finally, state regulations have forced the county to raise their tipping fees by $1.50 per ton, and we have to reflect that back into our landfill tipping fees line item. Under wastewater on page 63, you will see an increase in the chemical budget. It's been bumped up to $29,000. This is just in case we're able to move forward with the capital improvement of doing solids dewatering. And if that's the case, we're going to need additional chemicals to help thicken the sludge in order to dry it. Then finally, we have stormwater on page 68. Probably the biggest change you'll see on this one here is going to be the assessment maintenance. This is the line item in which we use to maintain the downtown, whether it's the lights, the bricks, or any of that. Any of the maintenance that needs to be done downtown, especially after our reconstruction. And we are looking at replacing the light over by the Carroll Hotel because it was hit a couple of years back and we've not received any. I understand that it was a hit and run and we've not received any insurance money or anything like that, but we do definitely need to get that fixed. And with that, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. To Tyler.
All right, just two that I'm going to mention on the bottom, excuse me, of page 75. I put a new line item in for this year for advertising. It's actually surprisingly one thing we had not done for marketing, so different opportunities to advertise brush in different capacities. I want to have some money to be able to do that. And then on page 76, increase that by $500 for economic development. I want to implement a new business retention and expansion program and reach out to some businesses in new ways and just have some extra funds available for that. Any questions?
Thank you. Fire department's next.
Is that on? Okay. There's really no changes. The bottom line's exactly the same. We moved a little bit of money around into some of the different line items, but not significant. So not any big changes.
All right. It's a good department.
It's
City
the
clerk.
salaries they draw out there.
Yeah.
They're just staggering.
The only significant change in the city clerk's budget is we're not anticipating an election next year, so we went from 8,000 to 0. And in the records management, we are going to have to supplement, or whatever Joanne does, to increase it for this year to allow for the sign code that will have to be sent to MuniCode to do the update to our code book. And then I did ask for 6,000 in that next year as we're anticipating a few more code changes that will have to be codified. So that's it.
Thank you. Next, community development.
Okay,
You're
in
new,
community development, on page 88, the consultant has been increased by $4,000, and that's increased due to the possible marijuana regulations and code revisions.